I just wanted to welcome everybody here and hope that you get some answers today, what you want to see, enjoy the event. We're excited to be part of it, and we look forward to reclaiming this area and the work the group's about to do, and thank you for the nice prayer, appreciate it. If you have questions, ask everybody in the fancy coats and they will be more than happy to help you out a lot, so thank you.
A couple of things. So I think I've chatted with, believe it or not, I have things to say, Di. The core, the heart of the project is kind of down there towards the confluence area. We're really excited about this particular project, including the confluence, which hydrologically, from an engineering perspective, is really important, but also from a traditional cultural heritage perspective, the confluence actually has several names in Inclacatma specifically to that particular area, so it's a really important cultural area for the entire valley as well. We're excited that it's a part of the project. That's kind of going to be the core, the heart of the project. This particular project has 4 properties within its boundaries. It is a first in BC post-flood voluntary buyout program. The landowners do not have to opt into this voluntary buyout program. It is not an expropriation. It is voluntarily buying out this property using federal funds and provincial funds and a contribution of some city flood relief funds as well to naturalize this property. Because it's voluntary, some properties don't have to opt into it. This property over here has not opted into the voluntary buyout program. We will not walk on this property over here. The project itself will still go forward without this property because, again, the heart of the project is down by the confluence site. So if it's 3 out of the 4, which it is right now, the project will still go forward. It will still be, the steering committee will still have more than enough area to decide on a naturalization. People are going to ask, hey, what are we doing with this project? Like, it's a bunch of flood debris, there's a river somewhere in there, maybe the river will go somewhere else. I don't know, and I shouldn't because I'm an accountant. And I keep saying this, don't let the accountants make the decision on where the river goes, because guess what happens? That's exactly what happens. When you make decisions to move rivers around, whether for economic or other reasons that have happened historically on some of this, you can have flooding events. You can't protect against every single flooding event. So a really effective strategy going forward is let's get out of the river a little bit. In Merritt, we are in the unenviable situation that we have significant numbers of houses in what could be a floodplain. So we can't evacuate to Merritt the entire floodplain. It's not an economically feasible, and it's not a feasible from a humanitarian perspective. You can't kick an entire town out. What we can do is find specific ways and project corridors where we can allow the river to have some more room and build infrastructure and flood protection for the rest of the community at the fringes of that corridor. So that's really what we're trying to do here. From a hydrological perspective or an engineering perspective, this is a super, super important point on this whole corridor because those rivers come together, and also this is what decelerates the river going downstream. So this particular corridor, whatever the final design is going to be, is going to work very well to decelerate the river and reduce the risk downstream as well. So how do you do that? I don't know. There's a lot of different ways to do that. We've been able to fund and establish a valley-wide steering committee comprised of a representative from the City of Merritt and a representative from the 6 bands. I don't think we have a rep for all 6 bands yet, but we're very close. And again, we're not pointing at people and saying, you're on the committee. Each council, our council and chief and council chooses a rep for that particular jurisdiction. And then everybody sits down. This is a long process. This is a steering committee that could take 18 months to really come up with a solution. And I've been asked many times, how do you just put a bunch of people in the room and expect them to come up with a reasonable solution? That's not what we're doing. That's not the purpose of the steering committee. The purpose of the steering committee is to build capacity locally and to have a relationship building project where instead of far-flung engineers from Vancouver or the East Coast or somebody else coming in and telling us what to do, we as a valley are coming together and deciding as a valley what restoration should look like in this valley, which I think is really, really important to build that community capacity, to build those community relations, and to have something that we can all work on together. That's the vision here. The steering committee has a full-time technical expert on the steering committee, but also the ability on every single meeting to have between 1 and 2 technical experts. What's a technical expert, you ask? sky is the limit. It could be somebody who knows a lot about fish, or it could be somebody who knows a lot about dirt or rocks. We actually talked about rocks for probably half an hour yesterday. There's people that are really excited about rocks. Those type of people will be available to the steering committee, and we've also allowed significant time and funding to make sure that traditional knowledge keepers are also a part of that steering committee and a part of the final plan. So that steering committee looks at a whole bunch of other things that have happened. This isn't brand new rocket math here. We've done lots of restoration after the flood on Highway 5, on Highway 8. There's lots of cool restoration that's happened in the valley. We want the steering committee to decide which of those projects is applicable here and which we want to advance forward. After that particular point in time, the steering committee will have access to an engineer of their choice and will start to develop a conceptual design. After that conceptual design is done, then it's my problem to build. And then we get to build things, which is kind of cool.
Well, basically,
What are you going to be talking
as far as you see that way,
What are you going to be
as far as you see that way, as far as you see that way,
Because we really want to
there
talk
actually used to be a house right here. Matter of fact, that house used to be that one right there.
Oh,
So we're almost standing exactly where the picture was taken.
Right.
So there used to be a house. That was our poster house for quite some time on what, so that was there. And these houses over here are all the ones that are in question of being bought out. Well, we bought these houses out, so.
Okay, yeah, let's do it right here
These are
then,
the
if
first
that's
four.
okay.
So this is one of the main areas that was flooded the worst. This is the Pine Street area that received the most damage and has changed direction. Matter of fact, we're standing where water used to flow, no longer flows here. And this is where we are now working with the First Nations to return this as a reclamation project with a steering committee led by the First Nations to actually reclaim this land back and turn it back to the First Nations and let them redevelop it to a certain degree where it'll be left as it is now, but they will have the ability to do cultural monitoring and cultural items, and it'll be all part of the city. It's exciting. It's one of the first things that, this is one of the first times that this has happened.
How does that process work? Does it have to do anything with like reshaping some of the landscape, bringing back in like native plants that used to be here? Like how is that going to look?
Well, traditionally to a certain degree, and this is why the steering committee has been formed. So this is not led by mayor and council. Mayor and council have almost nothing to do with this. We just facilitate. So there is a steering committee of all 5 or 6 bands in the valley. Plus there is a representation from somebody from the City of Merritt. It cannot be a council member or the mayor. And they meet, they go through what this is going to look like. Now, one thing you will notice here, a lot of the native plants have actually redone themselves. They're coming back on their own. So a lot of that work gets done, but the steering committee will decide what this will look like, how it will go, and how it will work, and that's where the 6 bands will come in and make the decisions on it, along with the city representative.
And this is just the first phase of it, right? There's several phases?
There'll be several, there's several different phases, but this is the first reclamation where we are working with First Nations. The rest will be more of a technical, moving a dike, and then building a dike actually on the process of the lands that we're buying. So this is a completely different situation than what will happen behind us.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I guess, yeah, as you said, the city's involvement, it's more of like a facilitator
We're
role.
a facilitator only because one of the things that I was asked was, what happens if there's artifacts found? What will the city do? Nothing. It's not ours. It was never ours. So we will make sure that the bands that are involved they will do what they feel they need to do with those artifacts. The city lays no claim to those, and we will have no involvement in that situation because it's not ours. So we're just happy to be part of it. It's exciting. It's exciting to see this happen for the first time, and we're looking forward to see what the end result will look like. And this will be open for anybody to walk through and just enjoy the nature. And it will be back to. That's why we're calling it reclamation. We're reclaiming something that has been underwater for a number of years.
Is there a plan to expand this, like once this kind of gets underway and you see what it looks like?
This now Sean may be able to sponge on that a little bit more, but I do believe what you see here is the 4 properties that we moved on quickly to get this to happen, and I don't think it will go beyond this because this area, to be 100% honest, you can never build here again. No homes, no structures can ever happen here again. So this is more of a, like I say, a reclamation, turning it back. A lot of the First Nations summered here for hundreds of years. So, and then all of a sudden, now there's no water here anymore. So who knows what's here? So that's the exciting part. And this steering committee will work towards making this, getting us to the line, and then seeing what comes out of it.
Dollars-wise, what's the cost of something like this?
I do believe, again, Sean will have to probably, I think right now we're talking about $1 million to this point where we are working now. And there was, of course, the 4 property buyout. that I'm sure at some point will be announced what that was, what the people settled for, or it may not be. As far as the dollars, I think it's an ongoing. I just know the $1 million was the first I heard. Where we're actually going to end up with as far as dollars, not really sure. Sean can probably fill you in a little bit more on that.
Who's pitching in the funding for
I believe this is a federal, so far most likely, most for this has been federal for this.
How's it feel then? You're walking through this area, as you say, there used to be water here, and a few years ago, a lot of water, and now, yeah.
It's another step. It's like our bridge opening on the 16th of November. It's another step to healing. Healing the community and getting us back to a normal community. But it's also a step in truth and reconciliation, and that's what this is about, right? This is about truth and reconciliation and moving in that direction. So again, a very exciting time for all of us, and of course the six bands, it's exciting for them as well. So it's exciting for us.
Anything we missed? Anything you wanted to add?
No, good. Sean can give you more of the technical stuff as far as dollars, and that's why he wears the red jacket. I don't even have one.
But those other ones, like the ones that are pretty beat up, they're going to be bought?
They're going to be bought out, and then of course the diking. Then this is where the question does come in to a certain degree, is how do we build a dike until we take that temporary dike down, because we don't know which way the water's going to go.
Right, and the temporary dike kind of runs between these two log piles?
If you step over here,
yeah,
and you look, you can see the very top of it, and there's a good picture of it over there. You can just see it's a temporary horseshoe.
Okay.
That's been put in there, but that has to be brought down.
Right.
By provincial order, it has to come down. But not till we're ready, of course. But you know, the idea, I think what you'd probably see on the waterside dike is, I think where we're standing pretty much will all be dike.
Right.
And then the water will be urged to come more down and then pop in down over there. Because you don't want, because our eye basins are right here, so we don't want those flooding either. So we've got to be careful with that. So it's that's why we have all these professionals, because these engineers know where it's going to go, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
And you're still waiting for all that federal money too, right?
Well, we're I think we're on our e-petition, we're almost there.
Oh, good.
So I think we're about 50 away from it.
Oh, good.
So yeah, so then that's where Dan Elvis and myself and possibly Mayor Coyne will be able to speak on the floor. So I'm confident that we'll continue. Well, we'll just keep going until we get something. I mean, we're not going to stop. It's not like we can stop. So it's just we've got to come to an agreement on how this is all going to look and how it's all going to work. And yeah, we'll get there.
So there's been a lot of talk about how this type of steering committee, it's a first of its kind, just sets a new precedent. Once everything with STUWI X is up and running and the project here is finished, where do you see the longevity of STUWI X or this type of organization and interaction?
I think STUWIX will be an example. I think that'll be, you know, it's like anything else. When somebody has done something, they'll then be able to help somebody else move in that direction as well. So I think STUWIX will still have a large role to play even after this is done, as we move forward on the other properties. I think they still will have a large input into it as well.
What other areas could a STUWI X type of steering committee help in terms of Merritt and the Nicola Valley?
Well, I think STUWIX would be a good group to help us sign the MOUs with the six bands. That's where we want to get to, memorandum of understanding. And we're into that, but we're not there yet. So STUWIX, I think, would be a good group to help us get there with the six bands to get a memorandum of understanding, which basically means we all work together. We all understand what each other wants. So I think STUWIX still has a role to play even after this is done.
For many, many years, we've talked about fires. We knew how to take care of the forestry, and we did it, and we were told not to. And now that all the trees have burnt, they come back to us and say, can you help us? We're going, well, what's there to help? There's no more trees. Yeah. We burnt them all. And now with the river, you know, how do we talk about the river? How do we talk about our teaching about why the river is supposed to be the way it is, right? And why it wants to go back to where it originally wants to be, and because it knows what it's supposed to do, it knows where it's supposed to be, and us highly intelligent people keep trying to tell it to go a different way. So you know, what do we do? You know, so I can sit back and I can watch you and I can say a few things, but you know, whether you're listening or not, it would be another concern. So yeah, it's really dependent on how many people hear what the river is saying. And that's what I told the kids, you know. Some people might say, well, you know, you're speaking out of your wrong spot, but
but time has proven that what's been happening for the last 100+ years isn't working.
yeah, yeah,
Yet we lived in peace before. So
yeah.
yeah.
And the river is supposed to do things and be a certain way. And that's for the, not only for the fish, not only for the bugs, but for us as human beings.
Yeah.
For us as living beings that make decisions about the water. And we make decisions about where the water should go. You're getting too close.
Sneaking up on you.
One should never sneak up on an Aboriginal person.
I was thinking, wow, you're handling this really well.
But I just want to add, I mean, Doreen is part of the steering committee,
Yeah.
and I think, like Sean noted, what we're trying to do is create space for, you know, reps from those 6 communities to share that traditional knowledge, but also like what we call the Western science from like the fish, you know, biologists and the hydrologists and others, and sort of weave that
Merge
together
it,
to
yeah.
come up with a plan.
Yeah. I worked at the band school, and one of the best programs was working with James Shooter, going on Fridays, going onto the land and learning, you know, if the berries change color, now it's time to go fishing, and there were so many signals to learn. And
Well, even as we're driving over, I was telling him I took a sneak peek to see if there are any mushrooms.
you gotta
So
come up to see them all. The mushrooms are amazing right now.
So he asked me, was there any? I'm going, no. Am I going to tell him?
There's plenty.
I asked the mayor the same question, but I'd be curious to see your perspective on it. There's been a lot of talk with how this has been a first of its kind, with having the city and all of the bands involved with it, setting a new precedent. Where do you see this going in the future after this project is done? Do you see any other similar types of steering committees, and where do you see those committees playing in?
I guess for me, and at my ripe old age and that, I'm happy to see some collaboration. But what I'd be looking forward to is the results. Like what are the results going to be? Because over the years and through my life experiences, I've been consulted on many things, but nothing that I've said has come to being. And the ideas and the concepts have been put aside as a consultation, you know. So I'm usually not willing to sit at a consultation table unless there are people who are in power and who can make those decisions, because we've been consulted or we've had meetings with First Nations people and called it a consultation. And it wasn't a consultation. There was no documentation of it. There was no results. As a result, it's only people who come, who make decisions to do what they're going to do and say they consulted us. So for me, when this is supposedly done, if the things that we as Indigenous people see the results of, then I would say that would be successful.
And there's still a long ways to go for this project, but where things are at now and what you've seen, where do you see this going in 18 months to 2-3 years from now?
Well, personally, I'm really happy to be included in this process, because the sacredness of water is so important, and the salmon are vital to us as Indigenous people for our survival, and it includes all kinds of things. Like it includes, you know, even as I shared with the kids yesterday, it includes those little wee bugs that people kill. It includes the animals. It includes everything. It includes the whole aspect of our world. You know, we have countries that have no water. And you know, here we are, we're supposed to have the best water in the world, and yet we struggle. So for me, you know, my involvement probably goes to my deathbed. I talk everywhere, and it didn't start here. Like my involvement hasn't started here. I have always talked about the water, always, my whole life. And that's a long life, so.
And there's snacks, please eat them, because otherwise I will. We don't need that.
And don't look for mushrooms. If you are looking at the land, looking at water, not
There's
mushrooms.
no mushroom here.
There's no mushrooms.
Yeah,